Why the U.S. is restoring relations with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, despite Russia's growing influence. Once seen as strongholds of U.S. and Western influence in Africa, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso have in recent years taken a dramatic turn, military coups, severed ties with France, and a growing embrace of Russia and the Wagner Group. Many believed the U.S. had lost its foothold in the region for good. But now, in a surprising twist, Washington is quietly working to restore relations with these three Sahel nations, even as they lean closer toward Moscow. So what's behind this sudden diplomatic push? Why is the U.S. re-engaging with governments it once condemned? And how does this play into the larger battle for influence between the U.S. and Russia on African soil? Today, we break down the strategy, the stakes, and the silent tug-of-war unfolding in the heart of West Africa. This is a story of power, strategy, and the new battlefield of global influence. Let's dive in. The Sahel's shifting geopolitical landscape. The Sahel, a semi-arid belt stretching across Africa, has been plagued by instability driven by armed Islamist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, weak governance, and porous borders. Military coups in Mali, 2020 and 2021, Burkina Faso, 2022, and Niger, 2023, have upended democratic institutions, replacing civilian governments with juntas, critical of Western involvement. These regimes, frustrated by the perceived failures of French-led counterterrorism operations like Operation Barkhane and U.S. military assistance, expelled Western forces and turned to Russia for security partnerships. The formation of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, in 2023 by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso further solidified their shift away from the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, and Western allies, embracing Russian support through entities like the Wagner Group and its successor, the Africa Corps. Russia's appeal lies in its offer of unconditional military aid, devoid of demands for democratic reforms or human rights accountability, which contrasts sharply with Western approaches. Russian mercenaries have provided security assistance, trained local forces, and supported propaganda campaigns, while gaining access to lucrative resources like gold and uranium. However, Russia's counterterrorism efforts have been criticized for their brutality and ineffectiveness, often exacerbating violence and civilian suffering. For instance, in Mali, violence involving Russian mercenaries reportedly increased by 81% since 2023, with little progress in stabilizing the region. Why the U.S. is re-engaging? Despite these challenges, the U.S. is seeking to restore relations with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso for several strategic reasons. Number one, countering jihadist threats. The Sahel remains a hotbed for jihadist groups like Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin and the Islamic State in the Sahel, which have expanded their influence, attacking urban centers and besieging communities. The U.S. views these groups as a global security threat, capable of destabilizing not only the Sahel, but also neighboring regions. The withdrawal of U.S. forces from Niger, particularly from Air Base 101 and a $110 million drone base in Agadez, has limited Washington's ability to gather intelligence and conduct counterterrorism operations. Restoring relations could enable the U.S. to regain access to critical infrastructure and resume intelligence sharing, vital for monitoring and combating these groups. Number two, mitigating Russia's influence. Russia's growing footprint in the Sahel, facilitated by the Africa Corps and high-level engagements like the Russia-Africa Partnership Forum in November 2024, poses a challenge to U.S. interests. Moscow's strategy leverages anti-Western sentiment, offering military support and disinformation campaigns to undermine U.S. and European influence. The U.S. is concerned that Russia's presence could further destabilize the region, fuel authoritarianism, and grant Moscow access to strategic resources. By re-engaging, the U.S. aims to counterbalance Russia's influence, offering an alternative partnership model that emphasizes governance and development alongside security. Number three, economic and resource interests. The Sahel is rich in natural resources, including uranium in Niger and gold in Mali and Burkina Faso, which are of interest to global powers. Russia has secured resource extraction deals in exchange for military support, raising concerns about the exploitation of these assets without transparent governance. The U.S., through private investment in development aid, seeks to foster economic cooperation that aligns with its strategic goals, promoting stability and reducing reliance on Russian partnerships. Recent U.S. diplomatic efforts, such as those led by State Department official W. Stevens in Mali, have emphasized economic collaboration as a pathway to renewed ties. Number 4, regional stability and ECOWAS relations. The AES's withdrawal from ECOWAS has deepened regional divisions, complicating efforts to address cross-border security threats. The U.S. sees ECOWAS as a key ally in promoting democracy and stability in West Africa and has urged Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso to rebuild ties with the bloc. Restoring relations could facilitate dialogue between the AES and ECOWAS, reducing the risk of further fragmentation and fostering coordinated responses to insurgencies. Challenges to U.S. re-engagement. Restoring relations is fraught with challenges. First, U.S. law, specifically Section 7008 sanctions, restricts security assistance to countries under military rule, limiting Washington's ability to provide lethal aid to juntas. This contrasts with Russia's unrestricted arms sales, which have won favor among Sahelian leaders. Second, anti-Western sentiment, fueled by Russia's disinformation campaigns, has eroded trust in U.S. intentions, with some locals viewing Russia as a more reliable partner. Third, the junta's authoritarian measures, such as Mali's ban on political parties and crackdowns on civil society, conflict with U.S. commitments to democratic governance, complicating diplomatic efforts. Moreover, Russia's presence is deeply entrenched. In Niger, Russian trainers arrived shortly after the U.S. withdrawal, and in Burkina Faso, an estimated 200 to 300 Russian personnel were deployed. The AES's satellite deal with Russia's Roscosmos in 2024 further cements Moscow's role in regional security and communications. These developments signal a long-term Russian commitment, making it difficult for the U.S. to regain its former influence. U.S. strategy and prospects. The U.S. is adopting a multifaceted strategy to restore relations. Diplomatically, high-level visits, such as those by State Department officials, aim to rebuild trust and encourage democratic transitions. Economically, the U.S. is promoting private investment to counter Russia's resource-driven influence. On security, non-lethal assistance, such as training and intelligence sharing, is being explored to circumvent legal restrictions while addressing insurgent threats. However, the U.S. must navigate a delicate balance. Engaging with juntas risks legitimizing authoritarianism, while disengagement could cede further ground to Russia. The failure of previous Western interventions, which prioritize military solutions over governance and development, underscores the need for a holistic approach. The U.S. could learn from past mistakes by emphasizing local ownership, investing in community resilience, and addressing ethnic tensions, such as those involving the Fulani, which fuel insurgent recruitment. Broader implications. The U.S. is working to restore ties with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso as part of a broader shift in its Africa policy amid competition with Russia. Success could strengthen U.S. influence in a region vital for global security and resources, while failure risks isolating Washington and empowering Russia. The Sahel's instability could affect allies like Nigeria and Ghana. To counter Russia's appeal, the U.S. must promote sustainable development, transparent governance, and respect for local priorities, rebuilding trust, and challenging narratives of Western neocolonialism. The Sahel's stability depends on America's ability to adapt to a region skeptical of foreign intervention. The restoration of U.S. relations with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso isn't just about diplomacy, it's about competition, influence, and long-term security. In the eyes of Washington, walking away would mean ceding ground not only to Russia, but to rising instability, terrorism, and economic collapse. As global powers circle the Sahel, the people of these nations remain caught in the middle of a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. Whether the renewed U.S. efforts will build trust or simply mask deeper tensions remains to be seen. One thing is certain, the choices made now will echo for decades. If you found this video insightful, Hit that like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should the US be restoring these relationships? Or is it already too late to counter Russia's momentum in Africa? Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to us and catch our next deep dive into the global power shifts shaping our world.